Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Rachel Williams begins now.
Good evening, everyone. Hobart CBD has seen a string of crashes that's left a British tourist dead, a visitor from Brisbane injured, and another woman forced to be cut out of her car. Police say the driver involved in the most serious incident was unlicensed when he struck a pedestrian last night.
Emergency services closing off the heart of Hobart CBD last night. A British tourist and her husband had been in the state for just one day until their holiday met a tragic end at this intersection.
A female and a male crossing the Collins Street and Argyle Street were struck by a vehicle. Unfortunately, a 39-year-old tourist from the United Kingdom received fatal injuries as a result of that crash.
The man sustained minor injuries, but his wife was pronounced dead shortly after. Police say a 53-year-old unlicensed man was driving the car. He hasn't been charged at this stage.
The pedestrians were crossing a road in a well-lit area. The green walking signal was in their favour, and the driver, for whatever reason, has turned the corner and failed to see them.
Later in the day, Hobart City was affected by another crash. Just before midday, a two-vehicle collision on the corner of Davey and Harrington Streets left a terrified woman trapped in her car. Crews were forced to cut her out, with no life-threatening injuries reported. Further along Davey Street here on Argyle, a 35-year-old Brisbane woman was also knocked down by a car this morning. She sustained minor facial injuries and a suspected fractured arm, with today's incident spurring warnings from police.
We want you to slow down. We want you to be aware of your surroundings, and that way you're not running the risk of speeding into an intersection where you have the potential for a crash to occur or a pedestrian to be hit.
A day of tragedy affecting the city's roads. Ruby Kamain, 7 Tasmania News.
Damning letters from Tasmania's Treasury informing government departments of budget cuts have been revealed. The documents show some agencies struggled to meet the timeframe to come up with a plan for savings.
Pumped up to bring the National BMX Championships to Launceston next year.
My advice is that we expect this will bring millions of dollars of total spend into our economy.
But it's a different story for government departments writing out cuts. In June, letters were sent out advising each one of the plan to save $450 million, informing them how much they would lose and setting expectations they come up with measures to do it. The letters were obtained by Labor under Right to Information. They reveal a pushback by some agencies. Former Communities Tasmania boss Gina Webster wrote, "The July 8 timeframe gives us 7 business days to do this. I do need more time to carefully consider the definition of frontline services." Former Health Secretary Michael Pervin was more blunt. "We will struggle to produce something robust and clear it through the Minister's office. Is there any possibility of an extension of time?" Treasury's Tony Farrell sent the same letter back to both. He understood the challenges, but was in no position to hand out extensions.
What this Right to Information document shows is that on the 25th of June, the government knew how much was going to be cut from each agency. Now, this is information that Premier Will Hodgman will have, but he hasn't been honest with Tasmanians about this.
The government is expected to reveal more at the end of this month.
We're several months into the financial year. Agency heads are very good at budget management. They are working through this carefully and they understand that they're not to cut frontline essential services.
Sean McComish, 7 Tasmania News.
A man who was allegedly murdered in a hit and run in Prospect Vale likely died of severe injuries to his head, a jury has heard. Dale James Watson was allegedly run down by Joshua Joseph Barker in March last year. Today, a pathologist gave evidence about the critical injuries suffered by the 30-year-old. The trial continues on Monday. Launceston City Council has been forced to back down from its decision to move Australia Day citizenship ceremonies after a federal government ruling. Council voted this week to change the day of the ceremonies to January 25 after long-running calls from the city's Aboriginal community. It was the second Tasmanian council to make the change.
We're disappointed from the sense for the Aboriginal community. We're disappointed that when we have our citizenship ceremony on the 26th, they don't attend. They can't attend. If we have an Australia Day Awards on that day and we want to recognise an Aboriginal person, we just can't do it because they won't come up, they won't turn up on the day.
Our government wants to see more citizenship ceremonies on Australia Day because we want that opportunity to become an Australian on Australia Day to be available to more people.
The federal government made the decision under the Citizenship Code today, which will require all councils, with the exception of smaller councils, to hold the ceremonies on Australia Day. Thousands of Tasmanians, led by school students, have joined a global strike to demand action on climate change. Massive crowd numbers were reported at interstate rallies, while here organisers say a local protest was the biggest since the Franklin Dam demonstrations.
Thousands of people packed in Hobart's Parliament lawns, joining a global day of climate strikes.
2, 4, 6, 8, climate action cannot wait! 2, 4, 6, 8, climate action cannot wait!
Student-led strikes held across the state today, including in Devonport's Providore Place and Launceston's Civic Square.
It's something we all care deeply about, and we want to, raise awareness in our communities, in our countries, in our states.
They're calling on the government to take more action on what they call a climate emergency.
There's just so many issues that are being ignored every day, and if everyone can just do their little thing, then I feel like there has to be some sort of change.
They should hold these sorts of rallies, and people are free to speak their mind, but I believe they'd learn more at school than they would protesting.
Passionate protesters from all walks of life vocalising their beliefs that enough isn't being done. But the state government is concerned about the economic impacts that increased action would have.
If the key messages from some of these protest movements were taken on board, we'd see a carbon tax, we'd see a hit to the economy, and we'd be losing thousands of jobs.
I'm part of this movement because I believe that the government needs to make sure that we and the future generations, our children, our grandchildren, will have somewhere to live.
Oh, I think they need all the support we can get. It's our generation, it's on our shoulders.
Hopeful that their message will be heard loud and clear. Ebony Ablett, 7 Tasmania News.
A 20-tonne wind turbine blade has finally been removed from a Central Highlands road after an almost 24-hour recovery effort. Early yesterday morning, a truck transporting the blade rolled on its way to the Cattle Hill wind farm development. The recovery saw an army of cranes and excavators from across the state called in to flip the truck and 70-metre blade back upright. The road was finally reopened around 2 this morning. The wind farm developers say it's still too early to determine whether the $300,000 blade is salvageable. A development application for a controversial new hotel near Hobart has been opened for public comment. The proposed Rodney Hill development includes accommodation, a restaurant and new walking tracks. The plan has already been backed by the Clarence Council, but it's been scaled down following significant community concern over its size and appearance. The application will be open for comment until October 14. Keen anglers will descend on Cressy this weekend in the hope of catching the $10,000 winning trout. The annual competition brings hundreds of people to the state's trout capital, including dozens of school teams.
It's no easy feat luring one of these 5-kilo rainbow trout. Come tomorrow, there'll be hundreds of them swimming in Brumbies Creek.
These 700 fish have different sizes, makes all the competition more exciting. So could go from 5 kilos fish down to 300 grams fish.
Petuna donates the fish for the competition, which is in its 15th year.
For us, it's really important to support the local community. So all our staff, or most of them, are from here, are locals. So be able to share with our community our premium product as ocean trout is really good.
Anglers will be hoping to reel in the biggest catch of all, Teddy.
Teddy, our tag trout, is worth $10,000 if somebody catches it on Saturday or Sunday. So it's a great incentive to come out and be involved in what is a wonderful recreation for our state.
The Australian Schools Trout Fishing Championship will be held on Monday as part of the Trout Expo.
Schools coming from all over the state joining in a competition to catch the most fish in a team.
Fishermen will begin casting their lines from 8 a.m. tomorrow. Letitia Wallace, 7 Tasmania News.
Petrol heads from around the world have gathered at Baskerville Raceway for day one of the annual Historics event. Hundreds of classic cars took to the circuit to relive a special era of racing.
This Holden Tirana A9X is a piece of Australian racing history. Bob Morris drove it to victory in the 1979 Australian Touring Car Championship, defeating the legendary Peter Brock. While times have changed, it remains in its original form.
Nothing like the supercars of today, so it's very special and unique because the car's never been restored. It's as it is in its day, so it's a pretty precious car.
It's one of 200 classic cars on display at this year's Baskerville Historics. People from as far as Europe will visit the famous track this weekend to remember a golden time.
We've got an Austin 7, so that's 50s right through to the muscle cars of the 80s.
Jeff Fry owns a piece of Australian nostalgia. His 1950s Vulcan racing car a rarity.
It's got a very special motor in it as well. It came out of a racing car that was smashed up, and they ended up with a quite competitive motor in this.
Drivers began racing this afternoon across a number of categories, putting their cars through their paces.
And driving them in the way they're meant to be driven, and the owners just like to go out and enjoy driving them for the crowds.
While in pit lane, fans were enjoying the variety of vehicles on show.
Well, we come down from South Australia to it every couple of years. We love the FJ Holdens. They're the number one thing we come down for.
John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
50 budding singers from schools across Tasmania were put through their paces at a special event this morning. Award-winning barbershop group Signature Quartet took the students for a vocal session. The American group is here in the city for this weekend's Barbershop Harmony Festival.
Freedom, gotta have that freedom, I need freedom, yeah, freedom.
They'll perform at a gala concert at Rest Point tomorrow night from 7:30.
Back home in North Launceston are refusing to buy into their favouritism tag as the club prepares to try and claim its 5th State League premiership in the past 6 years. But the Bombers won't be taking anything for granted against their southern rivals despite a dominant finals record. Gunning for their 3rd straight flag, the side's coach isn't paying too much attention to the history books.
Completely different. We've got a completely different group this year with what we want to do. So if you're worried about what's happened in the past or what's going to happen in the future, we're not living in the present. So in terms of that, we've just got to worry about what we can control.
With a string of new names compared to last year's premiership pack, the Bombers skipper says the fresh faces have brought a sense of renewed energy this week.
Let them be, really. Just let them be excited. Let them have their nervous energy before the game, and they might make some mistakes, but everyone does that on a grand final day. So they've just got to learn quickly and be able to pick up what needs to happen, but you just want them to play naturally and not think about it too much.
And with a big question mark surrounding the availability of state ruckman Alex Lee to combat Lauderdale's Hayden Smith, Whitford was straight to the point.
He's right to go. Yeah, he's had the week on the track, so he's fine. Right to go.
But unlike the past 2 deciders, the side is forced to make the trip south to Blunston Arena this time around, with the club's UTAS Stadium fortress in the midst of a resurfacing.
Being a neutral ground, I don't think it favours any side. We travel, us and Launceston travel 8 or 9 times a year compared to southern teams 3 times. So, we're used to travelling.
Well, Cox Goodyear will be out to lead by example right from the opening bounce, with the potential to claim his 3rd Darren Baldock medal in a row.
Their strength lies in their midfield. I think that's pretty well known, and they don't shy away from that. So our mids have got to break even or get on top in there as well. So that's going to be a pretty key part of the game.
The match begins at 3 p.m. In local footy, Devonport is 1 win away from breaking a 31-year premiership drought. The Magpies take on Burnie in tomorrow's North West Football League Grand Final, looking to rewrite the history books.
It's hard to believe this is the last time Devonport won a senior flag. A bruising battle with Glenorchy at North Hobart Oval back in 1988. Tomorrow, the footy-mad city can finally mark a new chapter.
It's great for the club, but I guess at the end of the day, if you don't get the job done tomorrow for a playing group, it means nothing.
The Pies have form over Burnie this season, winning 3 of their past 4 encounters, including the qualifying final at West Park. But Bulldog medalist Bailey Bogue says kicking straight could have changed those results in Burnie's favour.
We've been in games against Devonport all year and had our opportunities.
Burnie's the league's reigning champion, having beaten Ulverston last year. The side's packed with premiership experience, even including 2 veterans who were part of the Dockers' 5 straight flags in the early 2000s.
Under a week and you really set yourself for these games.
With both sides boasting former State League talent, there's plenty on the line in the battle of the coastal cities.
It obviously has a huge impact on sponsors and volunteers and just our members of our footy clubs. It'd be really, really good.
Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmanian basketball fans have sent a strong message to the NBL with tickets for tonight's Blitz game selling out following a packed house on the northwest coast overnight, while the Launceston Tornadoes have finally revealed the person to lead them forward after an underwhelming NBL 1 season.
Fans were urged to speak with their feet to show the NBL the state's ready for a team, and that's exactly what they did, with more than 1,200 people packing the Ulverston Sports Centre for the opening matches of the Blitz. Northwest Coast Products' Rain Smith and Lockie Barker were keen to shine for the NBL 1 All-Stars side in front of the locals, but the Brisbane Bullets had other ideas, notching up a dominant 49-point win. It was a far more entertaining affair in the second game of the night as the Cairns Taipans and Adelaide 36ers left fans wanting more, playing out a nail-biter in front of the bumper crowd with a tip-in from Nate Jawai on the buzzer, securing a 100 to 99-point win. The Blitz continues tonight with 2 sold-out matches at the Kingborough Sports Centre and 1 in Devonport. Meanwhile, the search for a new head coach is over for the Launceston Tornadoes, with the club unveiling Sarah Veal as its first female coach in 5 years.
It seemed like the right time for me to come on board in a developing role with the amount of local talent that we've got on board, and here I am.
Veal boasts more than a decade of coaching experience within the Tasmanian system and is hoping to turn the Torns' fortunes around on the court following a disappointing NBL 1 season.
Our focus this year is first and foremost about developing our local pool and then filling any gaps that we need by some import players. So whether that equates to wins on court, we hope it does, but that's certainly not our main focus this season.
After claiming a national title in the Australian Offroad Championship, Somerset's Kyron Bacon says he's already preparing to defend his crown. The 17-year-old says his win on the weekend is a massive boost to his long-term goals.
It was a weekend to remember for Kyron Bacon. Crowned national champion in his first year competing in the EJ class. He says it's only just sunk in.
Spraying champagne and everything all over me, it was definitely something I'm not used to.
The win will help Bacon attract sponsors for next season, and they're crucial. He has to fund 6 trips to the mainland just to compete.
As soon as it's over, it's pretty much straight back into it. You don't really get much of a break.
Bacon teamed up with 4-time Enduro GP world champion Matt Phillips this year, a partnership which clearly paid off.
He was more happy than I was. When I'm struggling and everything, he's just there to help me out and tell me what I've got to do and everything, so he's keeping it fun.
And he hopes the momentum keeps rolling when he defends his new crown. Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
Good evening. You may be wondering where Jo Palmer is this evening. Well, of course, after last night's Powerball draw, she was last seen catching a flight to Switzerland to open a bank account. The rest of us have to work. And today around the state, all temperatures were above average. Hobart's 27, 12 degrees above average, but still short of its warmest September day of 31 degrees. Launceston 24, Burnie 17 and Devonport 19 today. Strawn, Campania and Bushy Park all on 26, Ouse 24, King Island 21, Flinders 20, Friendly Beaches 19, St Helens atop of 18 today. There is low-level cloud over the north and east of the state. That cleared during the morning. We did have some high-level cloud moving over this afternoon. An extensive band of cloud pushes back to central Australia from just west of Tasmania. Low cloud associated with cold air lies over the Bight and the Southern Ocean. Tomorrow, a low off our west coast extends a cold front across Victoria, New South Wales and southern Queensland. Another front moves over the Bight, a high further west. Winds switching from a northerly aspect to be more west-southwesterly during the day tomorrow, winds reaching up to 35 knots over the south and swells to 3 metres. Gale warning from Tasman Island to Low Rocky Point, a strong wind warning for all remaining waters apart from the central north, a strong wind warning for the central plateau lakes as well. Into the weekend we go. A few showers developing now. Hobart 23 though, 21 for Medina, a shower or two and becoming windy for Oatlands and 19. Saturday for Launceston, showers clearing later, 20 the top, 16 for Devonport, showers for Lyowini, 14 the high. Burnie expecting a top of 16 degrees with showers clearing, showery for Strawn and 17, 15 for Marrawar. St Helens tomorrow, a top of 20 degrees, showers on the way later, also developing over Swansea with 23 degrees and Orford 22. On Sunday, showers over most areas but leaving the east coast, mostly dry in the east tomorrow, snow to 700 metres. Showers on Monday, more frequent over the west and more snow on the highlands, and showers over the west and north on Tuesday extending statewide in the afternoon. Partly cloudy in Perth, showers for Adelaide and Melbourne, mostly sunny and 25 degrees in Sydney, and a morning shower forecast for Brisbane. Bit of cloud about, but still warm in Hobart, 21, 18 degrees in Launceston, partly cloudy in Devonport and 15. You can see, Rach, I'm dressed by my wife tonight. You've got a bit of black and white on. Richmond and Collingwood specials this weekend. You'll be happy tomorrow night, I reckon.
Oh gosh, I hope so. Thank you so much for that, Murph. Well, that's all your news for now. I'll be back later with updates. Thanks for joining us. Good night.